What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports here to give you the edge for this Lions vs. Packers showdown slate on DraftKings. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future NFL content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.dgfantasy.com. Now let's go ahead and dive right into this Green Bay versus Lions matchup here. Not an intriguing one, to say the least. We have the Detroit Lions open up at an 18.75 underdog, or that's their team total. They're coming out as an 11-point underdog to the Green Bay Packers here. So, not an intriguing matchup whatsoever, but this is a 48.5 over-under, and I start out by saying this every single time. In the last matchup, TJ, we talked about how the Las Vegas Raiders and Ravens matchup could have went south very quickly in terms of points scored. If you guys faded the defenses, like I said too, you probably did very well because it was a very high-scoring game, which is something we actually didn't expect. So, in this similar type of situation here, TJ, I honestly think fading the defenses is yet another sharp play. We saw Green Bay just let up a tremendous amount of points to the Saints, and we didn't expect that. I think this could be a little bit higher scoring of a matchup, and again, it's teetering on that line, 48.5, not high, not low, it's just in that awkward range. But nonetheless, let's go ahead and start out by breaking down position by position. I will start out by saying that defenses are probably going to be faded by me, and it's probably the sharper bet. At the quarterback position here for the Detroit Lions, we have Jared Goff. We don't have ownerships for you guys, but I can only assume he's going to carry a decent amount of ownership because in this type of matchup, he should be playing from behind the majority of the game. Again, they had a very impressive debut there versus the 49ers, and Green Bay not so much so. But guys, that's recency bias. We know that Green Bay is probably going to blow these guys out of the water. Should. They're an 11-point favorite. Jared Goff, 10K, TJ. Is he worth it in cash game?
Yeah, in cash, Matt, I think you can go there. We saw them come out of the gate against the 49ers, and they were getting absolutely throttled until that fourth quarter where they had a really big comeback, made it a very interesting game. Jared Goff threw 57 times. So, when they were down, they didn't just give up. They fought back. They tried to make it interesting against the 49ers, which they ultimately did. We know the rivalry and the history here between Green Bay and Detroit. Jared Goff being thrown into that with a not so great Detroit team. But yeah, if they're going to somehow keep it competitive, like you said, it's currently 11.5-point spread. Green Bay are favored 59% of the public bets coming in on Green Bay. Playing from behind, like you talked about, I think Jared Goff and cash is the safe.
Yeah, not only that, Aaron Rodgers is playing with a chip on his shoulder after that decimation in the first matchup, so he's going to come out, should be throwing a lot of passes. They're not going to take their foot off the gas here in this matchup, I do expect. Going over to the running back picture, this is something we have to keep an eye on because technically DeAndre Swift is questionable. He did not play in the last matchup. I do believe he was upgraded to a full practice on Saturday. Okay, I read the Friday report. So upgraded to a full practice participant. Again, something to keep our eye on because DeAndre Swift, I feel like, has been questionable every single time we've seen his name up to this point. $8,400 regardless. If he does play, TJ, are you considering DeAndre Swift in cash? This is going to be, you are, okay?
Yep.
Okay, is that because of the volume?
Yep. 100% because of the volume. Yeah, I do think you can go to DeAndre Swift. He only played 68.5% of offensive snaps. Like you said, Matt, he was questionable on Saturday, ended up being good to go against the 49ers. We saw how much Jared Goff utilized both of the running backs out of the backfield. DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams got a really big workload. I think you could see the same because the wide receivers are so hindered. They really don't have anybody else to throw to besides Hawkinson. So I like DeAndre Swift's ability to catch the ball out of the backfield. He ran routes on 80.4% of dropbacks that Jared Goff did have. So if they're playing from behind, I think Jared Goff is going to continue to utilize guys like DeAndre Swift, Jamal Williams. I expect a little bit more of a workload and offensive snap production from DeAndre Swift and maybe a little bit less for Jamal Williams as he continues to get more healthy. But depending on builds, I do like DeAndre Swift in cash.
Yeah, I think he's the second guy you have to consider from this offense. Again, $8,400 does scare me a little bit, TJ. I will say that. Yep. And I get how this will be, could play into his favor, very much so, especially if they are playing from behind. They throw to him a lot. Checkdowns, as we know, but $8,400 is just going to be hard to get to him. I really do like some of the value a little bit later on the slate, so I don't know. Again, depending on the builds here, like you said, I might be landing on DeAndre Swift, but I wouldn't be surprised if I ended up fading him because of that price. Jamal Williams at $7,200. That's a little crazy. Do you agree?
Too expensive for me.
Yeah.
Only played in 35% of the offensive snaps. Heavily involved though, Matt. 23 dropbacks that he was on the field for. He ran routes in 20 of them. So he was involved in the passing game. He had 58 yak yards, so yards after contact. DeAndre Swift had 72. So these guys were targeted very heavily. They had a combined 20 targets. I think you could see that type of game again from Jared Goff if they do fall behind. But I don't trust Jamal Williams. That's why when I look at it, Jamal Williams $1,200 less than DeAndre Swift. DeAndre Swift should be on the field at least 2/3, compared to Jamal Williams, who should probably be on there for a third of the time. That's why I prefer going up to Swift if you have it. I do not like the backup role there for Jamal Williams at 7.
Yeah, no other running backs saw the field in the last matchup, so these are the only two that I'm considering. The other four running backs, guess technically on this roster, I am not considering whatsoever. Switching over to the wide receiver position, this one is a little crazy because we had limited practice from Khalif Raymond on Saturday. He is questionable for week 2 at Green Bay. Tyrell Williams is officially out, so definitely have to pay attention. The reason why I want to be paying attention is TJ is because the next guys in line, Cephas, $3,800, St. Brown, $24. We have Benson, $1,000, and then the rest of them are $200. What? That is insane. You can literally stack these guys, and I think you can create a crazy build. Probably get DeAndre or get Adams in at the captain spot. Get Aaron Rodgers at the QB spot. Pair both quarterbacks in this, and then also get DeAndre Swift with a stack here of these wide receivers, and they should be playing from behind, so that kind of makes sense for a cash build anyway. So let me just ask you this: if Khalif Raymond is playing, are you considering him for cash in some of these other wide receivers?
I mean, unfortunately.
Yeah, you kind of have to.
Tyrell Williams out. Yeah, it should be Khalif Raymond and Quintez Cephas. That will be the 1 and the 2. There's going to be some cheap options there too, Matt, if Khalif Raymond is out. So I think it's something that we're going to have to monitor throughout the day. Herbert just threw a 36-yard touchdown. That got called back, so that sucks. But yeah, there's definitely some value here in these Detroit wide receivers. Like I said, or like you said, we're gonna have to wait and see what goes on with Khalif Raymond, because if he's out, it just opens up even more value. So it's definitely a situation to monitor. I'm not in love with any of these guys, honestly. Khalif Raymond played the most offensive snaps in week 1. He played 75% of them. Besides that, it was Amon-Ra St. Brown at 64%, and then Trinity Benson at 53%.
Yep.
I feel like you think I'm making these names up, but I'm not.
Yeah, these are some weird
so
church names or something.
It's a lot of young guys. On a wide receiver core that is pretty poor. And yeah, it's something to monitor. We'll have to wait and see what's going on with Khalif Raymond and kind of go from there.
Now,
I don't love taking any of these guys, but they're really cheap and they allow you flexibility. So I think it's something that you're probably.
And like we said, we should see them playing from behind the majority of these games. So these guys should all get targets, assuming that Khalif Raymond does sit. I mean, you're looking at Cephas, Brown, and Benson, and they're all under $3,800. I wouldn't mind playing, all 3 of those wide receivers, especially if you're paying up in that captain spot. So love them in the captain spot because it gives you some added flexibility. You can literally stack all the studs in your lineup. I think honestly, if Khalif Raymond does not play, you start your builds with some of these wide receivers. You kind of have to show for your value plays there. All right, switching over to another wide receiver rather here is going to be TJ Hawkinson at $9,600. Played the most, I believe, out of any other Detroit Lion other than Jared Goff himself on the field there. Played 84.8% of snaps in week 1. So let me ask you this, TJ. Are you prioritizing Hawkinson?
He's the guy that I'd love to get to.
Mm-hmm.
The price tag is really expensive. He had 11 targets week 1. He had 8 receptions for 97 yards and a touchdown, Matt. He ran routes on 87% of dropbacks that he was on the field for Jared Goff.
Mm-hmm.
So not really in there for his pass or his blocking ability. Obviously, running routes, trying to bring in some receptions. He's a guy that I want to try and prioritize, but again, it all depends on what type of build you're going for. If you want Aaron Jones, if you want Devontae Adams, what kind of game script you're looking at. But I definitely think that TJ Hawkinson's in play at $9,600 is so much for, to pay up for him, but I think he's worth it with what we have at the wide receiver position here for Detroit. So I think he carries some ownership, and I think he can go there.
If you believe this game's going to stay close, you kind of have to include TJ Hawkinson in here. I think he's going to be a huge benefactor there for that offense tomorrow because honestly, they have nobody else. So I think you have to include him. Again, you said it's game script dependent. I think if the Lions keep it close, you have to have TJ Hawkinson in there and also DeAndre Swift. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of build you land on there with the Lions and also getting in some Green Bay Packers. Talking about kickers, yes, Siebert is also in play for cash if you land them as the last piece, but I do prefer the Green Bay Packers kicker. Let's switch over to the Packers here at the quarterback position, the highest owned. I don't have ownership yet, but I can only assume he's going to be the highest owned guy on the slate. TJ, I think you can agree here. Aaron Rodgers himself, and cash for captain, yes. For anything else, no, because Devontae Adams is going to outscore him. I think we can both agree there in the captain spot. Cash, yes. Moving on.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to say. Everybody saw what Aaron Rodgers did.
Yeah, he's going to come back and
yeah.
All right, anyway, moving on. We have Aaron Jones. This is an interesting one. I kind of want to hear your take on him. 10-4 is very expensive. It's Aaron Jones. He's always hit or miss here. Another game script dependent player, I feel like. He only saw the field, what was it, 50-something% of snaps. And again, these guys were getting blown out, so he didn't play.
Yeah, I'm throwing it away, right?
Yeah, throwing that out. Sorry. 10-4. Are you prioritizing him in cash, DJ?
He's somebody that I'm obviously taking into consideration. It's tough because, all these guys that you want to get in, Matt, are so expensive, right? And that's the way that it works. So I think he's somebody that I do want to try to prioritize, especially depending on what kind of game script I think is going to run out. If I think that Green Bay is going to absolutely put the throttle down in Detroit, I think Aaron Jones could get a very healthy amount of carries here against a team that is susceptible against the run. So I do like him at 10-4. I think it's going to be pretty tough building if you want to get Devontae Adams, if you want to get Aaron Jones, if you want Aaron Rodgers, like right there, that's what, $35,000. You might have to go to one of those cheap options like you talked about for Detroit at the captain spot, make that happen. But yeah, I think Aaron Jones is definitely in the mix there.
I'm going to call this now, TJ. I think Aaron Jones is going to be my favorite contrarian captain for this slate because, again, 2 touchdowns. You already separated yourself. I think he's going to be very low owned in the captain spot because guess who they're going to play in the captain spot? I think he's going to be the highest owned is the wide receiver here, Devontae Adams, TJ, in the captain spot. And then, also Aaron Rodgers. If you're paying up for Devontae Adams in the captain spot, you're definitely not getting Aaron Jones 1,000% in your line, especially with Aaron Rodgers. So that's why I say he's going to be my favorite captain spot. Devontae Adams at 11.8, I feel like is also your second most obvious option here for cash. We have Valdez Scantling here at $5,600, Lazard at $4,800, and then also Randall Cobb at $2,000. The one thing I want to note here, and of course, my page just froze. Fantastic. Is the snap count here for Randall Cobb. I think he only played 26% of snaps. Yep. You'll have to. Did I remember that right? Awesome. Yep. All right, so I'm off of it now, so it's not frozen. But out of these wide receivers here for this team, who are you prioritizing for cash?
I mean, it's going to be Devontae Adams. I think if you're trying to prioritize Devontae Adams, one of Aaron Jones, like one of those two, if you want Rodgers and Goff, I don't think you can get these mid-tier guys of MVS or Lazard. I think you might be able to go to Randall Cobb, obviously, because it's a cheap option. But just based off the builds and what I'm seeing right now, Matt, I think it's either Devontae Adams or you're off of Devontae Adams and you're going to one of the cheap guys. So I think prioritizing the studs here for Green Bay and then getting the really cheap value for Detroit is going to be a really good way to build a cash lineup. So I think for me, it's just Devontae Adams is the only guy that I'm really interested in. I could see Marquez Valdez-Scantling being a good tournament play. If I'm going anywhere, that's where I'd want to go next. But I don't think any of those guys are going to be, I don't think MVS or Lazard is going to be high owned. And
in terms of just volume alone, I do prefer the Lions wide receivers over all these other wide receivers on Green Bay, except for Devontae Adams. I think I'm prioritizing the Lions myself because of the value that you can get with them. But yeah, I completely agree with everything you said. I think these guys are fantastic GPP plays. If there's anybody that's going to break the slate, it's going to be Lazard or Scantling. Down the seams, those long pumps always kill us. And yeah, it could easily make for a contrarian captain. They also allow flexibility there in your flex spots. All right, switching over to the tight end picture, we have Tanyan, what a BC was last year, 6.4K. That's such an awkward price tag. I don't know if it's going to be worth it. TJ, you agree there?
Yep.
All right.
Not going to be a cash play for me.
Yeah, not going to be a cash play, but I do think he's going to be an interesting GPP target yet again.
Yep,
last but not least is going to be Mason Crosby. I do prefer him in the kick. Kicker. The kicker spot here. $4,000. I really do like him for value, and I think you could consider him for a last piece in cash, TJ. I think he's going to be decently high owned just because there's going to be so much. Yeah, I think there's going to be so much additional value you're going to be looking for, and I think Mason Crosby does fit the mold there, and especially in this type of game script, he's going to be the one kicker here who's going to probably be kicking a lot more field goals, and I think that's it. I think you should consider Green Bay's defense if you think that they're going to really blow the doors off of the Lions, but I'm personally going to be fading defenses. You know how much I hate defenses and showdowns. I talk about every single time. But I think that's it. I think we just covered this, guys. We are now switching to our favorite PrizePicks picks here for this slate. If you guys haven't signed up for PrizePicks, first of all, what are you doing? Enter code using DGF for 100% matchup to $100. You simply hit the over or under on any fantasy projection here on the board. As you guys can see, they already have fantasy projections out for this game. Same thing with single props here, stat DFS, single stat DFS props. Tomorrow, they just have Aaron Rodgers and Jared Goff for passing yards. For rushing yards, they have the entire board. They even have A.J. Dillon all the way down here at 36.5. So you can literally bet on anything you guys want when it comes to DFS. That's why everybody plays PrizePicks. So don't miss the wave. Sign up using code DGF for 100% matchup to $100. All right, TJ, what is your favorite PrizePick pick here?
So I don't know if it's recency bias because of how he was implemented in the passing game, coming obviously trying to play from behind against the 49ers. I think this is a trend that could continue for Detroit, obviously going against Green Bay as they're 11.5-point dogs. I'm looking at DeAndre Swift over 27.5 yards. He had 11 targets in week 1, brought in 8 receptions. He had 65 yards. That's all great. But again, that type of game script is something I think we could continue to see here tomorrow night. So that's where I'm going. DeAndre Swift over 27.5 receiving yards, Matt. As long as he is good, I think that's my favorite play on the board.
I like that. And what you can do now with PrizePicks is now pair two players from the same game. That's something they didn't allow last year. So you can also pair DeAndre Swift over 27.5 yards with TJ Hawkinson over 13.5 fantasy points. I honestly think that's a free play. I think there's no way that he doesn't hit 13.5 points, especially if they're playing from behind. He is their main target on this team, playing over 80% of the snaps. And that will wrap up our video, guys. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future DFS content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your night, and let's cash.
Love you guys. Good luck.